everyone, this is Seema Chandani, your mentor from KYMS Academy, and I welcome you back to this platform of learning and knowledge. Previous year questions CAT 23 slot 1 series is going on, and out of the 4 RCs, we have discussed 1 RC, and today we are going to discuss RC 2. So let's get started, and together we make it happen. A quote by Aristotle Onassis. It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. Beta, only 4 months are left, and most of the people, they simply talk about the problem, difficulties, adversities. We are facing this thing, we are facing that thing. I can understand the problem, but then please do not come up with the problem, always come out with the solution. Okay, so just keep focusing on your hard work and consistency, and together we make it happen for sure. So let's start with today's RC, and today's RC, I would say, is not easy, it is moderate, and you need to understand certain things over here. Do not try to understand each and every sentence in the paragraph. Just go for the keywords, and then you will be able to find out the right meaning of the paragraph. Many human phenomena and characteristics such as behaviors, beliefs, economies, genes, incomes, life expectancies, and other things. Now, beta, what you have to see, that if any sentence is given between the 2 hyphens, if you want, you can actually skim that particular portion. Okay, so now what you have to see, that many human phenomena and characteristics are influenced both by geographic factors and by non-geographic factors. What are those geographic factors? Geographic factors mean physical and biological factors tied to geographic location, including climate, the distribution of wild plant and animal species, soils and topography. Non-geographic factors include those factors subsumed under the term culture, other factors subsumed under the term history, and decisions by individual people. So in this paragraph, author is saying that many human phenomena, they are influenced by 2 factors, geographic factors and non-geographic factors. Okay, and here we can see that under geographic factors, all these things are included, right? You can easily skim this portion. And what are the factors which are included under non-geographic factors? These are the history, individual people, then culture. Okay, that's it. So from this paragraph, you just need to understand this thing. Moving on to the next paragraph, the differences between the current economics of North and South Korea cannot be attributed to the modest environmental differences between them. Now, in this line, the author is saying that when we talk about the current economics of North and South Korea, तो वहाँ के जो differences है, it is not because of the geographic factors. Okay, author यहाँ पे बहुत deny कर रहा है, cannot be attributed to the modest environmental differences. Here, environmental differences means that these are not because of the geographic factors. They are instead due entirely to the different government policies. तो जो ये इनके बीच में differences हैं, it is just because of the governance prevailing over there. At the opposite extreme. Now, at the opposite extreme means maybe the author is going to talk about something which is going to go contradictory to this particular statement. Okay, तो previous line में हमने क्या पढ़ा कि whatever differences were there between the economies of North and South Korea, the reasons were not the geographic factors but the governance over there. Now, at the opposite extreme, the Inuit and other traditional peoples living north of the Arctic Circle developed warm fur clothes but no agriculture. While, so contrasting point is there, contrast is given, and contrast is given between the people of Inuit and the people, those who are living around the equatorial lowland. Okay, why equatorial lowland peoples around the world never develop warm fur clothes but often they develop agriculture. अब आप देखिए, as you can see, the contrasting points are there. So when we talk about the Inuit and other traditional people, okay, where they were living in Arctic Circle. अब Arctic Circle basically there the temperature is very okay, cool temperature is there, and because of that reason they are needing what? Warm fur clothes. But that kind of climate, it doesn't allow for the agriculture. Contrary to that, जो people, those who are living around the equatorial lowland, तो वहाँ पर the climate is very high, बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी होती है, therefore they do not need any warm fur clothes, and that also it is good for agriculture. The kind of climatic condition over there, it allows for the agriculture. So just the opposite of Inuit. Clear hai? The explanation is straightforwardly geographic rather than cultural or historical quirk unrelated to geography. So यहाँ पर the author is saying that the differences between the Inuit and the people living in equatorial lowland, basically वहाँ पर जो differences है, it is because of the geographic factors only. Aboriginal Australia remained the sole continent occupied only by hunter-gatherers and with no indigenous farming or herding. Indigenous means native. Okay, now Aboriginal Australia एक ऐसा area है जहाँ पर there is no native farming or herding. Here the explanation is biogeographic. अब यहाँ पर भी कौन से factors उनको affect करते हैं, which are biogeographic. The Australian continent has no domesticable native animal species and few domesticable native plant species. So in particular area में, इस particular continent में, there is no domesticable native animal and no domesticable native plant, or rather we can say few. Few का मतलब ये होता है almost ना के बराबर. Instead, the crops and domestic animals that now make Australia a food and wool exporter are all non-native, mainly Eurasian species such as sheep, wheat and grapes brought to Australia by overseas colonists. Now basically today Australia is a food and wool exporter. और वो किस रीजन से हुआ है? Because some non-native species were brought to Australia by the overseas colonists. So in the next part of the paragraph, or rather I should say in the second half of the paragraph, author is talking about the condition of Australia before colonization and after colonization. I hope this thing is clear. Let us move on to the next paragraph. Today, no scholar would be silly enough to deny that culture, history and individual choices play a very big role in human phenomena. Now here the author is saying that there are so many scholars who are saying that human phenomena are basically influenced by or shaped by culture, history and individual. It means these are the scholars who are giving importance to the culture, history and individual choices, maybe the non-geographic factors. Scholars don't react to culture, historical, individual agent explanations by denouncing cultural determinism, historical determinism, or individual determinism. In short, here you can understand that these are the scholars who are not criticizing, okay? In order to have the cultural explanation or individual explanation or historical explanation, they are not criticizing cultural determinism, historical determinism and individual determinism. मतलब उनको लगता है कि ये determinism जो है वो काफी valid है उनके according. And then thinking no further. But contrasting word, many scholars do react to any explanation invoking some geographic role by denouncing geographic determinism. And on the other hand, there are so many scholars who are actually criticizing the geographic determinism. तो उनको लगता है कि basically geographic जो explanation है, they are not valid. So basically here the author is telling us the double standard of the scholars, जहाँ पर एक जगह वो cultural determinism को criticize नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो उनको valid मान रहे हैं, उसी जगह geographic determinism को वहाँ पर वो invalid मान रहे हैं. Next paragraph. Several reasons may underlie this widespread but nonsensical view. So the double standard view of the scholars is actually viewed by the author as nonsensical. It means author is not liking this attitude of a scholar or maybe the biased attitude of scholars. Okay, अब author ने इस paragraph में reasons को define किया. अब देखते हैं वो कौन से reasons हैं. Now, one reason is that some geographic explanations advanced a century ago were racist. Okay, अब वो बोल रहा है कि बहुत टाइम पहले जो geographic explanations थे, they were actually racist. Racist का meaning यहाँ पर हो गया कि when we discriminate, okay, thereby causing all geographic explanations to become tainted. So here the author is saying that because earlier the racists were there and they were tainted by the racists, therefore they are denouncing what? Geographic determination. Association in the mind of many scholars other than geographers. But many genetic, historical, psychological and anthropological explanations advanced a century ago were also racist. तो यहाँ पर वो भी बोल रहा है कि अगर geographic explanations उस टाइम पर वहाँ पर काफी racist थे और वो tainted हुआ था, तो इवन जो जेनेटिक, हिस्टोरिक एंड साइकोलॉजिकल एक्सप्लेनेशन है, they were also racist. So if they were racist, then why the author is not being biased towards those determinism? तो वो author सिर्फ geographic determinism को ही क्यों criticize कर रहा है? Yet the validity of newer non-racist genetic etc. explanations is widely accepted today. So ultimately what the author is saying, that obviously geographic explanation at the time also, like, they were racist, but they were tainted by this thing, and because of that reason they were being biased. Okay, they were criticizing geographic determinism. Then why that is not the case with cultural determinism or individual determinism? Because even the century ago they were also racist. Okay, so this is one of the reasons that author is not liking the attitude, the double standard attitude of scholars. Another reason, this is the second reason now. Another reason for rejection of geographic explanation is that historians have a tradition in their discipline of stressing the role of contingency, a favorite word among historians, based on individual decisions. Now, what do you understand by contingency over here? Contingency means basically it's an individual decisions and chance. Often that view is warranted. Now, if you are making any decision on the basis of one single person, so here the author is saying, okay, to certain extent this view is warranted, means this view is justified. But often too that view is unwarranted. But many a times this kind of behavior or view or attitude is actually unjustified. The development of warm fur clothes among the Inuit living north of the Arctic Circle was not because one influenced Inuit leader persuaded other Inuit in 1783 to adopt warm fur clothes for no good environmental reason. So now in this paragraph, what the author is saying, that contingency जो होता है, so suppose if Inuit, he has given the example of Inuit. तो Inuit तो वहाँ पर क्या था, that it was like very cold over there. So यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं था because one person is coming to us and he's asking us to wear the warm clothes. It was not like that, because the temperature over there was so cold that everybody was wearing the warm clothes. तो यहाँ पर author ये बोल रहा है कि अगर आप individual decision के basis पर कुछ भी decide कर रहे हो, तो that is obviously not correct. It was the geographical factor because of which everybody was wearing the warm clothes. Okay, so this was the second reason, because this was the second reason of the dismissal of geographic determinism. A third reason is that geographic explanation usually depend on detailed technical facts of geography and other fields of scholarship. Most historians and economists don't acquire that detailed knowledge as part of the professional training. So here the author is saying, now in order to understand geographical explanation, we need to have certain technical knowledge, and because these people, these scholars and economists, they had the lack of technical knowledge, and for that reason they dismissed the geographic determinism. Okay, I hope things are clear. So I would say that passage was moderate. I won't say it was easy, but as you can see that it is not at all compulsory to go for each and everything. Just go for the gist of the paragraph. Okay, so in the last three paragraphs, author has given us three reasons. Clear? So now let us go to the questions and solve them. All of the following can be inferred from the passage except. Again, except question is there. It means we have to go for the false one. So 3 will be true and 1 will be false. Agriculture practices changed drastically in the Australian continent after it was colonized. In one of the paragraphs, we studied that obviously there were no domesticated animal species or plant species. तो जब वो फूड और वूल एक्सपर्ट हुआ ऑस्ट्रेलिया, तो वो कैसे हुआ था, बिकॉज नॉन नेटिव स्पीशीज वर ब्रॉट टू ऑस्ट्रेलिया बाय द कॉलोनिस्ट. Okay, so this is something that we can infer. So yes, it is true. Individual dictate and contingency were not the causal factors for the use of fur clothing in some very cold climates. This was given in the I think this was given in the last paragraph or the second last paragraph of the passage, जहाँ पर वो यही बोल रहा था कि obviously just one particular person cannot decide that you have to wear warm clothes or not. It means it is basically the geographical factor that asks you to wear this thing or that thing. Okay, while most human phenomena result from cultural individual choice, some have biogeographic origins. Now most of the people, they are going to infer this option as well, but here you can see that most word is given, and most is an extreme word. Okay, I cannot deny this fact that yes, human phenomena result from culture, individual choice, but most and some, this is something which I cannot infer from the paragraph, obviously. So this is going to be wrong. So this is going to be the except one. Several academic studies of human phenomena in the past involve racist interpretation. This we came across as one of the reasons which has been cited in the third last paragraph of the passage. So again, this is true. So the answer is going to be 3, okay, which is the except one. Question 2. All of the following are advanced by the author as reasons. Now you see, reasons word is given, so therefore here we just have to see the last 3 paragraphs of the passage. Why non-geographers disregard geographic influences on human phenomena except there. Okay. Now here you see, हमको यहाँ पर reasons देखने हैं, तो what were the 3 reasons? First was racist, second was contingency, individual decision, and the third was lack of technical knowledge. Dismissal of explanations that involve geographical causes for human behavior. Now, beta, this is something that is going to be the case of, I would say, circular reasoning. Okay. Now, circular reasoning basically होता क्या है? If I'm asking you any question, you are giving me the answer that way only. ओके तो अगर कोई बच्चा है जो बहुत कम बोल रहा है क्लास में और मैंने उसको बोला दैट व्हाई डू यू टॉक लेस, तो उसने बोला बिकॉज मैम आई डू नॉट टॉक मच, तो आई थिंक दैट इज नॉट द रीजन. ओके तो बेसिकली दैट इज द केस ऑफ सर्कुलर रीजनिंग. तो ऑथर हमसे यहाँ पर पूछ रहा है कौन सा रीजन है और कौन सा रीजन नहीं है. तो ऑब्वियसली डिसमिसल ऑफ एक्सप्लेनेशंस, यस वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द डिसमिसल ऑफ एक्सप्लेनेशंस एंड वी वांट टू हैव द रीजंस. So this is not the reason, this is the part of the question only. Therefore, it is the case of circular reasoning, and circular reasoning is a kind of fallacy. Therefore, this cannot be the answer. So in a way, I got my answer, and answer is going to be 1 because we have to go for the except one. So now 2 and 3, 4. Maybe these are the reasons of the dismissal of geographic determinism. Let's see. Belief in the central role of humans. Central role of humans here means contingency. Clear? So yes, this is correct. This is one of the reasons. Lingering impressions of past geographic analysis that were politically offensive. The words have been changed. Politically offensive means racist. Okay. Disciplinary training which typically does not include technical knowledge of geography. This was given towards the end of the passage. So yes, this can be inferred again. So answer is going to be 1. Question 3. The examples of the Inuit and Aboriginal Australians are offered in the passage to show. Okay, अब आपको पता है there was one paragraph, I think maybe the 3rd or the 4th paragraph, where the author gave the difference between Inuit and Aboriginal Australians. इसका मतलब Inuit people, they were living in the cold climate and obviously they were needing warm clothes and that was not feasible for agriculture. But those people who were living around the equatorial lowland, obviously the climate was very, very high. It was very hot over there. So they were not needing the warm fur clothes and that was also feasible for agriculture. So basically author में आपको बोलना क्या चाह रहा था कि दो differences थे, they were because of the geographic factors. Now let us see the options. How environmental factors lead to comparatively divergent paths in livelihoods and development. Obviously, this example is not given to show the divergent paths in livelihoods, not at all. Okay, so this can be eliminated. Human resourcefulness across cultures in adapting to their surroundings. Of course, this again is not given. How physical circumstances, here physical circumstances stands for geographic factors, can dictate human behavior and cultures. Indeed, this is something which has been conveyed through this particular example. So yes, this is going to be the right answer, that despite geographical isolation, traditional societies were self-sufficient, adaptive. This is something which is not given anywhere in the passage. So this is out of the context. So this cannot be the answer. Answer is going to be 3. I hope things are clear. The last question. The author criticizes scholars who are not geographers for all of the following reasons. अब आप इसको थोड़ा सा शॉर्ट कीजिए. ऑथर क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा है स्कॉलर्स को, और वो क्यों क्रिटिसाइज कर रहा था? बिकॉज ऑफ द डबल स्टैंडर्ड व्यू or the thought process of the scholars, okay, they were being biased. So अब उसने उनको हर reason के लिए criticize किया है except, okay, again we have to go for the false one. Their rejection of the role of biogeographic factors in social and cultural phenomena. अब इसे हम कहाँ से ले सकते हैं? Okay, there was a paragraph where the author said that yes, no scholar would be silly enough to deny that culture, history, individual choices play a big role in many human phenomena. So from this statement, you can infer that this is true. This is true means this is not the except one. Okay. Their outdated interpretations of past culture, historical phenomena. Up here, I can say कि yes, they were talking about the past culture, historical phenomena, but obviously their interpretations were outdated, were obsolete, were old-fashioned. It was not like that. Passage में कहीं भी ये mention नहीं हुआ है. Therefore, this is the answer. This is the answer because here the author is asking us the except one, which is not there in the passage. Their labeling of geographic explanation deterministic, yes. They criticize geographic determinism, right? The importance they place on the role of individual decisions when studying human phenomena. Again, individual decisions, here it stands for contingency, which is also given in the passage. Therefore, correct answer is going to be 2. So yes, I'm done with today's RC, and if you have learned something from today's video, then please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. In case of any doubt, you can always visit our site and give us a call to this number. Thank you so much.